and thank you to Marin and Sonoma Fire Safe Councils, Rich and Roberta, and your teams for inviting us to be able to share this with people. It's so important, and it's just great to be with all of you and such amazing professionals. And for me, it's like a reunion because I get to be sharing this information with really good friends, Captain Cindy Machado and Roberta McIntyre, neither of whom I've seen in person for about 17 months. So this is actually an extra treat. So we are going to be talking about the large animals, and give me just a minute and I'm going to do something here. I want you to take a look for a minute at this beautiful montage we have, lots and lots of animals. This is just a snapshot of the many species that we are blessed to be living with and which are part of our lives and our landscapes here in the North Bay, especially Sonoma and Marin counties. And so I'm going to talk to you and try to touch on the high points, the things that we think are most important for people to know. Now, I'm going to preface this by saying that, of course, both Cindy and Roberta have covered a number of things that I'll touch on very, very briefly because we have commonalities. Obviously, large animals come with their own special challenges. And I like to say that whether you're evacuating or preparing to shelter in place your cattle, your llamas, your sheep, your goats, your cats, your chickens, your guardian dogs, getting out of the house with your animals, getting out of the ranch with your animals is kind of like getting away with your older or very young or possibly less able or challenged family members. It is going to take longer. So let's start with, how do you plan? Evacuating and sheltering in place require planning. And you've heard it from Cindy, and you've heard it from Rich, and you've heard it from Roberta. So how to prepare? Well, the most important message I have for everyone here is this. Whether you're planning to evacuate or whether you think that sheltering in place is going to be best for the animals that you have to take care of, you absolutely have to have more than one plan. You have to have a plan for every possible disaster and eventuality that you can think of. And you have to have a backup, have a plan A, a plan B, and a plan C. I can't say it enough times. So moving on, let's talk about your evacuation plan. Planning for animal evacuations really starts with assessing the risks. And not just the obvious risks that are related to your property itself, but if your plan is to evacuate, and that's absolutely what you want to do, then A, you need to know when to go, be paying absolute attention to those alerts, and know when you are going to begin to be at risk, and that's the time to go. Think about the animals that you're evacuating. A lot of the properties that we have in these counties have lots of rescues. We're blessed with kind-hearted people who take in animals that have special needs. Can those animals, the elders, the seniors, the oldies, the ones who are lame or crippled, can they actually be loaded safely? Can they be transported safely? Can they deal with the stresses of a shelter or temporary housing? Some hard questions that you have to ask yourself. How long will it take you to load them? Everything's going to take longer. I like to say that evacuating with large animals is a lot like Ginger Rogers. She did everything that Fred did, but she did it backwards and in heels. And that's kind of what your large animal evacuation is going to look like. It's going to take longer, and you need to practice, practice, practice. Make sure that everyone loads. Make sure that they will load for a variety of people in a variety of trailers. And if they don't, then switch to your shelter in place plan and make sure that everybody has the safest possible place at home. How many rigs and helpers would you need to get everybody out? And how long will that take? These are just a few, but I think some of the most important questions. Next slide, Shiloh. Know where you'll go and who will help you. So again, you heard Cindy talk about the challenges around sheltering. Well, everything she said about small animals is multiplied 20 times when we're looking at large animals. First, the emergency animal shelters will not be open until an emergency or a disaster is declared. Often by that time, it's almost too late to be evacuating safely for a bunch of reasons. In the North Bay, those large animal shelters fill up very, very, very fast. You need to rely on your personal resource network. I cannot emphasize enough the importance of starting now. If you don't have a little black book that really is an address book, in addition to your cell phone, in addition to your important document binder, that has, again, more than one, more than two, more than three of every type of resource, every type of helper, from someone to help you catch your animals and load them, to someone to get you an extra trailer and a truck, or a driver if you're not able to drive yours, and places to go. Ideally, as far out of the area as you can get, to a place that you know is going to be safe from whatever is taking place, whether it's a fire, an incoming storm. And if you are forced into a shelter in place situation, let's say we have an earthquake and you're not going anywhere, then you need to know what your personal resources are. So lots of things to think about. Next slide. Animal evacuation prep. Again, continuing on because it's a really important topic. And again, we're talking about the big animals here. What are some of the additional things to take into consideration? First, catch those animals up and contain them so they're easy to catch and load. This is the big animal version of locking your cat in the bathroom. Get them up into a place where you're going to be able to find them if it's dark, if it's windy, if it's muddy, and you're not going to have to run out to the back 40 and hunt them up and catch them. Make sure that all of your supplies, your ready equipment, your animal go kits, your personal go kits are already loaded. You don't have time to be throwing them into the truck. Make sure that your rigs, those are your trucks and trailers, your SUVs, everything that you're using to get yourselves and your animals out, are fueled up. The old rule of thumb used to be at least half a tank. Well, what the heck? We've all experienced gas shortages, extended power outages, just add to that exponentially. So start with a full tank. When there's a red flag, when there's a storm warning, your rig should be checked, the tires should be checked, you should go through your truck and trailer safety checklist, you should have a full tank of gas, it should be hooked up, and it should be staged facing out, ready to go. And make sure your trailers are clean. And if we're talking about a potential fire environment, that means no bedding. Don't put fresh shavings in the bottom of your trailer. And make sure that when you leave, the windows are closed. Open windows with livestock and equines during a high wind event. Smoke, ashes, embers are a big danger. So clean the trailers out, nothing on the floor that can burn, and the windows closed when you hit the road. Last but definitely not least is your PPE, your personal protective equipment. If you're not safe, you can't take care of anybody else, including your animals. So make sure that your PPE are on the front seat of your truck. And that means your headlamp, your gloves, you're wearing your work boots and your long pants and a long sleeve shirt. But make sure that everything you're going to need and everyone who's with you is right there so that you've got it and you'll stay safe. Next slide. Let's talk a little bit about sheltering your animals in place. This is a topic that scares the living daylights out of most people, but it is a reality of life in California. Often, if we're talking about fire, your large animals may be safest at home, at their home, especially if you have taken all of the fire safe precautions to make your property and the animals' refuge as safe and defensible as it can possibly be. Having a shelter in place plan is also critically important because there are times when that may be the only option. You can't get the animals out, no one can get in. And again, fires aren't the only situation that we may be facing here in California. And there can be times when we're not going to be able to get animals out. So what are some considerations? How do you determine if your animals will be safe enough at your property? Well, here are some of the high points. Is their home defensible? Everything that makes your home and property safe is going to make their home safe. Is it irrigated, or do you have a really dry lot pasture, like the photo here with my horses out in their bone dry summer hills with really nice fireproof steel fencing? How far from a radiant heat source are those animals going to be? Their pasture may be safe and there may be nothing to burn, but if they are close to a heavily forested or very brushy area or some big barns, or even a densely populated residential area, that could be a hazard that you need to think about. And again, make sure that that perimeter fencing is safe and secure. It's not going to burn. And if it's a hot wire, if it's an electric fence, make sure that you've got some backup power to keep it going. Next slide. I should let you guys know that my partner Shiloh is actually up in Oregon, and she's participating in this program with me, and Matt is advancing my slides. I meant to introduce her earlier. So thanks, Shiloh. Just how safe is your property? Well, we've got great tools, fire safe councils, our CAL FIRE Ready, Set, Go, Ready for Wildfire app. Both of these resources have incredible checklists, videos, walk around self-assessments that will help you take a hard look at your property and make sure that it's safe. Making it safe means that it's accessible after a fire or an earthquake. Making it safe means it's going to be safe for our responders so they can get in and do their work. It means that you're maintaining defensible space, including the height of the trees and clearance for those emergency vehicles to get into your property. If they can't get into your property, they cannot get into the area that the animals are housed. And in the case of our animal disaster response teams, they're not going to be able to get in to either evacuate your animals or provide them with welfare checks, something that we do and which I'm happy to talk about if there are questions. Consider every possibility. Have a hard look around your property. Consider every potential hazard. Airdrops are something to think about. And that picture of that tree there on the left, that's my ranch, my driveway between my house and my barn right after the 2017 Nuns fire, which started about 300 yards from my back door. So we were pretty prepared. We had lots of tools. Our vehicles were all in a safe place, but we could not get past all the trees that were blocking us from the primary container that had all our big tools like our chainsaws and our fuel for the chainsaws and things like that. So we had to hike through our vineyard over a lot of rubble and debris in order to get to the tools that we needed to clear our roads so responders could get in. So that's something that we took a much closer look at in the last several years, and I'm encouraging you to do the same. Just look at your property through a really, really harsh lens. Next slide. Disaster action plan. Do you have one? If you do, it's time to update it. If you don't, it's time to make one. Your disaster action plan includes all of your emergency contacts. It includes photos, ID, registration documents for your animals, including photos of you with your animals, your microchip registration information, your vet records, prescriptions, dosage information. You don't want to have to be relying on your brain when you're tired and you're stressed to remember what and when are my animals needing their meds. An advanced care directive. It's nothing that we like thinking about, but if you and your animals are separated and someone else needs to make decisions about their care, it's really a huge sense of relief and security to know that that document exists and your plans for your animals will be carried out. And we have samples and templates and all kinds of resources that support all of these tasks, everything on our to-do list at our website, halterproject.org. And Marin Humane also has loads and loads of great information, including info about barnyard livestock. One other thing to think about now, when we're talking about our disaster action plans, we really need to factor in those extended power outages. They may not be the result directly of a disaster, but we are going to be experiencing them, we know, more frequently, and they're going to last longer. And that can be a disaster if you don't have enough water storage, if your fences are electric and you don't have solar backup. So plan for that extended power outage, whether it's a planned outage or whether it is brought on by whatever the disaster is. That is a secondary disaster that can actually be more harmful than the fire or the storm itself. And your plan had better include every single solitary thing that you need to take care of your animals if you're without power for an extended period. Next slide. Help responders help your animals. There are simple ways to do this. Here on this slide, we've given you a couple of examples. On the left, we've got a simple whiteboard. Take a piece of white painted metal, go out to Staples and get a whiteboard. List the critical details about every animal that might be on your property, where they are, where their feed is located, special needs. It's nice to include their name and a little bit of information about them, including their sex. If you have animals left behind for whatever reason and you need to get help for them, this is of enormous benefit to responders. I myself am an animal disaster responder. I do deploy to big incidents and have for a number of years now. And even though we have excellent detailed information that our call takers on the hotlines take from people calling in and requesting help, it is incredibly helpful to come to a location and find something like this waiting for us to take a look at. If sheriff's deputies or Marin Humane or firefighters are on your property and they see something like this, then they may, if they can, take a few minutes and have a look around. And if they see animals that they think might be in distress, then they'll put a call in to the Animal Welfare Agency in that jurisdiction. In Marin, it's going to be Marin Humane. In Sonoma, it's going to be Sonoma County Animal Services, and they'll make sure that the animals get the care and attention they need. So a really simple but enormously helpful tool that can make a huge difference. Next slide. Provide info about the resources and the animals to the responders. So again, a really simple tool like just taking a Google Earth aerial photo of your property and then putting in a key, show them where the animals might be, where are the resources, where's the water, where might they be able to draft from, where are hydrants. All of these things are of a huge benefit to the animals and the animal responders, because if we know that there is water on that property, we don't have to spend extra time and a lot of energy trying to find a way to haul water in. Maybe we can't get a water trailer in. We spend a lot of time hauling 5-gallon water cans, very long distances to water animals. Also, it's really important to let responders know where the hazardous materials are so that, again, they can keep an eye out for where those animals might be, especially if the fences are down. All of this is part of what makes your property safer and defensible. And it's all part of what should be in your animal disaster plan for your equines and your livestock. Next slide. Red flags and other alerts. Cindy did a great job talking about knowing when to go. Know when to go. Know what those alerts mean, and by all means, make sure that you are signed up for every possible alert that's provided in your area. So if you don't know what's coming, you're not going to be preparing far enough in advance. Prep your animals before you need to go. And again, Prepping for large animals means that when there is a fire weather watch or a big storm warning, that's when you really need to be thinking about going, not when an evacuation warning or advisory is issued, and definitely don't wait until an evacuation order is issued. Do not wait to evacuate. It's often going to be too late, and you've just increased your risks exponentially. Make sure that your animals have visible ID on them, even if they're microchipped. Now is the time to move them to that confined, easily accessible pen, corral, or arena where they're going to be safe. And make sure that you've got good halters and good lead ropes for everybody, where the animals are, and also extras. We had an incident just down the road from me in 2017 where we had a fabulous equine performing group. They travel all over the world. They all have their halters firmly attached to the bars right outside their stalls. In that gigantic traumatic wind event, the Porta stall barn collapsed and they couldn't get any of the halters. These were actually Liberty horses, and they managed to load 22 Liberty horses in their gigantic van using voice cues. So an amazing lesson in working with your animals, knowing your animals, gaining that trust, and having a plan. Next slide. Supplies, just a few of the must-haves. Definitely make sure that you know how much water you're going to need for every animal. We have a little handy chart here on the side. We have all this information on our website, as does Marin Humane. They've got a great pamphlet you can pick up that tells you exactly how much food and how much water for just about every species we have in our counties. Make sure that you have water for at least 10 to 12 days, preferably more, and feed for at least 3 to 5 days, ideally more. Medications, Cindy's already touched on that. You need to have backup. You need to know that you can access your medications and your prescription if necessary. And it is tricky. You do need to enlist the help of your vet to make sure that you've got all your medication needs taken care of. Make sure that you have your own buckets, especially when you're evacuating. Muck buckets, water buckets, long hoses, good nozzles, shovels, and brooms. You don't want to risk contaminating, spreading disease to your animals or anyone else's by sharing. It's nice when someone offers you their hose, but it's not a great idea. So make sure that your supplies at home and on the road include all of those things. Slow feed hay nets, really important if you have equines. We have really detailed, complete checklists for equines, farm animals, all kinds of species on our website. There's way, way, way more than we could cover here. So if you need it, you know where to find it. Next slide. Sheltering in place prep. Again, remove those masks, wraps, and halters, really important. Increase the water storage, add tanks, add troughs, and here's something people often don't think about: secure those troughs so they can't be tipped over. Animals like to play in their water. It's nice if they have a nice cool place to stand, but it's even better that water is available for them to drink. Relocate all the hay, the bedding, anything that can burn, including, that cozy sofa that hangs outside your barn. Move everything as far away from the animals as possible. Add visible identification, and make sure that you've taken your animals out of barns and sheds. The rule is turn them out, but don't turn them loose, and close the gates and the doors behind them, because animals will run back into that building. Even though we know it's not safe, to them, that's their safe place where they're fed and where they sleep. So please turn them out, don't turn them loose, close the doors behind them. Next slide. Finally, resources. We have loads of resources on Marin Humane site and at halterproject.org. And I wanted to let you know just a couple of other great resources for our large animals. If we're talking about companion animals, so these are our large four-legged or feathered pets who are companions just as our dogs and our cats are, then Marin Humane and Sonoma County Animal Services are going to be your go-to resources. We also are blessed with a number of community animal response teams in the North Bay, and I've listed Sonoma and Napa here because those are the two most likely to be responding in a declared disaster. And we have information with all the hotline and helpline numbers in the North Bay if you find yourself in a situation where you need help for your animals. If we're talking about commercial livestock, that's a different model, and we have amazing resources for those as well. Most notably, our agricultural commissioners, our departments of ag, and our rock star UC Extension Service dairy and rangeland advisors. We're very fortunate in Sonoma and Marin, we share ag advisors, and so both of those people work together. Many of our farmers and ranchers have ranches in both counties. So again, we're kind of closing out with a little glimpse of just a few of the animals that are so near and dear to our hearts. People come from all over the world to enjoy the beauty and the pastoral lifestyle that we enjoy here, but along with that comes the responsibility of planning for our animals. And just like Cindy, we are here at the Halter Project to help you with training if you'd like to become a volunteer, with resources. You can spend some time with us. We have close to a dozen preparedness videos, and our website includes presentations by some of the world's leading experts on animal emergency and disaster preparedness and response. My last message for all of you is breathe, keep calm, and be ready for whatever. You'll find that preparation is going to be the most relaxing thing that you can do, and we're here to help you get there. Thanks for joining us.